Hey everybody, Wayne here. In today's Let's Chat, we're going to take a look at a solitaire game published in World at War number 78. It has a couple different names, seemingly. Not that this matters, but so if you look on Board Game Geek, I think it's called like Solo Suez, something like that. The cover of the World at War, again, number 78, is Drive on Suez. The rulebook says Drive on Suez, Rommel Drives Deep, 1942. So regardless of what the actual name is or what they want it to be, same game. We'll talk about this one. For those not familiar with this format, this is a new format that I came up with where I wanted a chance to talk about games. You know, we do our recons, right? We're unboxing games. I like to describe each thing, my thoughts as they come to me. You know, for the most part, pretty popular videos. Occasional people just don't like unboxings in general, but it's one reason I provide commentary and kind of comparing things, especially if I have previous experience with this series. And then moving on though, I just kind of skip, right? We have that, and then we go to like my overviews and reviews generally. Sometimes a playthrough or partial playthrough. Which those are great. Those are all great. I love doing them. People love really all those types of videos. But in this case, I want to do something where I chatted a little bit. And the last one I did was the first video in this series. Our God Was My Shield, the American Civil War game from Hollandspiel. Like I said, this one though is a solitaire game. This one's solitaire design. So we're getting back to our roots, solitaire wargaming here. This one's designed by Joseph Miranda. I want to talk about it a little bit. So a couple things quick I want to kind of address. I did see a couple comments. One comment from someone who I think I also know him on Board Game Geek, but I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name. But said something about he replied to this. I assume he was talking about this game, my unboxing for this or unbagging recon video, and he said that he doesn't play States of Siege games anymore. Well, time out. This is not a States of Siege game. I hope I didn't say that in my unbagging because it's not. It's a solitaire game. It's not States of Siege. So just a quick little, again, we're just discussing the game. So this is not an over review. This is not, in-depth, but we'll talk about a few different things I just want to talk about. So on that comment, and I'm not picking on him, I just want to clarify in case people are wondering, or like, wait, what? Especially if they just happen to see that comment. So it's not States of Siege. I know that as you're looking at the map, it kind of sort of looks like there's tracks. Well, first off, we're talking about the North African campaign, right? So sort of a skinnier, at least north-south, right? Longer east-west area. In this case, we're looking at where the Axis captured Tobruk, and it's where it begins, basically. And then they're the edge of Libya, and they're moving into Egypt. So it's not States of Siege. How it works here is you have your turn. You command, Rommel, the Desert Fox, and you kind of know that technically, historically, he wasn't the overall commander, but he obviously exerted a lot of influence. He had the ear of the German High Command, and he kind of had a lot of influence on that. So he kind of called the shots for the most part. You're moving east, right? Your goal, obviously, capture as much as you can. Get over here. Capture, we have Alexandria here. We got Cairo. Take Egypt, right? We get access to the Middle East for the oil. So in this game, you're pushing east. You're moving your units. You're starting up here, and you're moving this way. There's no States of Siege. You're not, rolling a die or flipping a card. You're not defending where like they're coming in, or some of the States of Sieges we've seen recently in recent times are like moving outward. It's nothing like that, right? This is completely like the game has an AI system. And what's kind of fun about it, what I like about it, and I'll talk about this more in depth on my overview review, is so you'll be pushing east, and as you're entering Allied held territory. So as you can see, this game, hopefully you guys can kind of see, because I have basically this is the play area. You have all of it on camera here, and there's some charts up here, charts and everything, which I really like having charts and tables available, especially for a solitaire game. I don't mind if they're all crammed on the map. It may not look super pretty, but it's useful, it's functional, I like it. But as you're moving east here, and you can see I've actually made it all the way. We're in turn, what are we at? We're about to start turn 5. The game goes to turn 7. And if you've captured El Alamein, it'll go past 7. If you haven't, and I think you may have to capture all 3 of these, which I am now approaching on starting turn 5, so hopefully I'm going to be able to. and then the game will continue on. But as you're moving, and so this is kind of the two ways that the game kind of runs the AI against you. And I like them. It's simple, it's not hard to manage. This is not a elaborate solitaire system, but it does seem to really work for this game. So two things. First one being when you're entering areas, so it's point-to-point movement here. You can see when you're entering an area that's ally controlled, not only may there be, allied units that are seated, and clearly you can see they have, it's the classic, like, oh, you don't know what strength they are. You flip them over, and it'll tell you. But as you enter allied spaces, you're rolling for a reaction check. Simple die roll, but that means the allies may or may not react to that movement, which means they may or may not move forces, which you just would draw from a cup. So it's not moving the ones that are already kind of here. They're kind of static once they're on the board. You draw from the cup and place them in that space that you just moved into, and then you'd have to fight them. Not only that, depending on your die roll, it'll say whether they react or not. It'll also determine how many units react to you. The second thing is that there are these bulletins, which basically are random events. There's Axis ones to start your turn, and there's Allied ones to start their turn. Again, every turn you draw from that, and there are counteroffensives, and it'll have you attack a certain place. For instance, it might say, okay, counteroffensive, look at whatever the most northern and eastern Axis forces. So for instance, in this case, it might be our forces here. It's an unnamed spot, but right here, adjacent to El Alamein. That would be if we drew that counteroffensive. And what they would actually do is, again, you draw and go ahead and place them right there. Boom, you'd have a combat. So besides what combat you're having as you're on the attack, right? You're going to have the allies react with the reaction roll, and you're going to have the counteroffensives you may be drawing. And you will draw them. Like I said, I'm starting turn 5. I think I've had 2 or 3 of them that I've drawn. So they're definitely in that chit cup. Maybe 2. I think it's been 2. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, just to make sure you guys understood it's not States of Siege. Not at all. That's not the engine. I know that it is based on Patton's Third Army. Joseph Miranda said that. I have not played Patton's Third Army, but I may want to because I'm enjoying myself with this one. But anyway, the other thing I want to talk about this game is the supply. So when you think of supply, or at least when I do, I think of like really elaborate hex and counter games. I think of the OCS series, right? Where you're building up supply to launch your elaborate attacks, and supply is very important, and supply absolutely was important during war. Well, especially at this scale, right? We're looking at this big, more like operational or maybe even strategic scale here. Well, in this one, you do have to worry about supply. And that is not a common thing in solitaire games, I'll tell you that. I've a lot of experience with solitaire war games, like solitaire-specific war games. And you don't usually have to do with supply. You do in this one. I was a little apprehensive when I started it, but it's an interesting mechanic. So you can actually see, so we have some of these trucks here. These will be the Axis supply trucks. And by the way, they don't worry about supply for the allies. First of all, because it's the AI handling it. And second, because in reality, it was the Axis that struggled with their supply lines, struggled moving supplies, getting tanks repaired, getting enough trucks, vehicles, ammunition, etc. The Allies were falling kind of back on their supply lines, so they did not have those problems. So what happens is each turn you're getting a certain amount of supplies, changed by a couple modifiers that you can help with when it comes to the basically air superiority. The Allies have it. Is it parity? The Axis have it. And supplies are going to land. You can see you have these naval, right, the anchor symbol. So you have supplies landing there. You have some airfields. You can use air supply, but you're never going to have enough. So for instance, right now, you can look, I have a supply truck with my forces here, supply truck here. There's none. And even down here, I haven't marked out a supply. I've used up a lot of supply, and every turn I'm basically using all of them, if not all, close to all of them. I'm trying to build up for my attack here on this fortified line, right? El Alamein, Alam El Hafa, Rusawat, Ruwaysat. Sorry, I can't pronounce it. But I'm trying to build up for that attack. You need supply. So what it is that you can move, and I don't think you guys can quite see it. You sort of can. So see, there's this PAA movement. That's Panzer Army Africa. So that Axis forces, which are basically the Germans and Italians. you have out of supply movement and in supply movement. So you can still move when you're out of supply, right? So you can still move your forces. They just have half the movement. So if they're in supply for a movement, they're going to be doubled. And then for combat, thankfully, it's not totally halved. What it is, it takes away 1 strength point. So if you have some, which, well, in this case, would be halved, right, in some of these. But you may have other ones like, say, this Panzer. I think it's a division. With a 4 combat strength, it would take 1 away. It would actually have a 3 combat strength if it was out of supply. So you can fight out of supply. You can move out of supply. But to get the full bang for your buck, and trust me, you're going to want to, because you're going to be fighting through a lot of allied units. You're going to want to try to have your units in supply. So I just thought those were, I want to talk about a little bit. I thought it was, normally supply does not excite me in a game, even though it is a key part of warfare, campaigns, etc. It doesn't exactly, right, draw the imagination into, you know, the charging men worrying about their supply, right? Like we think of the charge of the light brigade. We think of Pickett's charge. We think of, you know, maneuvering and tanks. But tanks need fuel. Men need fuel, food, bullets, whatever. So it is a part of the game, and I've learned to love it, right? I've learned to actually really like it. It is a fun little part of it that really makes you have to think, when can you launch an attack? When can you move? Sometimes with games, especially I feel like solitaire games, it's very like, you're just pushing, right? Whether it's whatever the game is, you're just pushing. You're not worried about supplies. You're not worried about things like that. You're just like trying to get as much as you can, as far as you can, crush the enemy, right? Well, here you actually have to think a little bit. You have to plan a little bit. That planning is something you don't often have to do in a solitaire game. Some games you do, of course. Not speaking for all of them, but I do like that part of this one. So, other than that, I think those are the 2 things I want to talk about. I just want to make sure you guys establish it does have its kind of its own system. Like I said, based on Patton's Third Army, apparently, although I've not played that, and the fact that supply is a key part of it. So, now these videos in the future, I would like to do them live at some point so we can get a little discussion going. Maybe we can talk about a game. Although I film my videos usually at weird times, early in the morning, generally. So I don't know how many people would actually be watching them, but let me know below if that would ever interest you guys. Maybe I can get something scheduled, and I would show it scheduled ahead of time so you guys would know. But other than that, yeah, that is Drive on Suez, Rommel Drives Deep, 1942. Definitely going to have an overview and review coming. If you have any questions about the game, please leave them below. Hopefully I'll answer them either this video, last video, or, you know, the recon, or in my upcoming overview and review. But other than that, and I don't know if I'll do a playthrough. The turns take a little while to work through, just due to the sequence of play, which I think I looked at in the recon, just to show you guys quick. So for instance, the sequence of play doesn't seem like it's much per se. So here it is, starting here and working down to here. Doesn't seem like too much, but if you look, I mean, it's a phase broken up into 2 subphases, a phase broken up into 4 subphases, a phase broken up into 2, you know, multiple here, another phase, 4 subphases, etc. So there's quite a bit, and, you know, in each part you're going to run through, and you're going to have to make decisions, do certain things. There are a lot of decisions in the game, which I do appreciate. A lot of dice rolling, but a lot of decisions to make along with it. So I appreciate that. But anyway, I'll end it here. Hopefully you guys liked or enjoyed the video. You know, like to look at this game. You know, the discussion a little bit of a couple features of it. So far it's going pretty well. I'll probably have a couple complaints, but also have some things that I really am enjoying on my review. So. Again, comment below if you've played it, or if you want to play it, or you just, you know, want any sort of feedback on this video or on this game. So other than that, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, later.